I've gotten to work on a variety of different projects and different species. I spent a fair amount of time working on cougar projects here in the Cle Elum area, down the Blue Mountains and up in Northeast Washington. I've worked on black bear over in Capitol Forest and in Issaquah, North Bend area, and up by Lake Wenatchee, Leavenworth area. And then I've also worked with black-tailed deer, looking at density estimates on the Olympic Peninsula. Down into Southwest Washington, I worked with marble murrelets, which is a seabird that flies inland from the ocean to nest in old-growth forests. They normally nest on big platforms of old-growth trees in the moss along the coast. Right now I'm working on wolves. I've worked with Canada lynx up in north central Washington. I've worked with sharp-tailed grouse back in Wisconsin, done some electrofishing on fish and stream surveys. You know, even all through high school, I never really had thought much about it. I mean, I was always into animal documentaries and things, and used to love going to the zoo and seeing these animals up close, and but never really thought about being a biologist. I work with students at the school, and hands down, I think that was my favorite project I've ever gotten to work on. The intermix of the community and taking students out, 8th through 12th grade students, on cougar captures, on den site investigations, on kill site investigations. It just added a whole nother dynamic and just level of fun. There had been a adult female that was killed a few days prior to that, and then they had seen these kittens wandering down along Highway 10. We were able to go back to that same spot and find those same kittens in there. The alternative in that instance was that those kittens would die or starve to death out there. And so in that instance, we captured those kittens and we got them to an AZA accredited zoo. Probably 44 cats, and since the project started, and I'm sure I've been in contact with at least 35 or 40 different cats at multiple times. So we catch them every year to replenish the batteries and the collars. But I've never ever had a cat act threatening towards me. I've walked into den sites, I've walked into kill sites, I've climbed trees with cougars in them, and they'll hiss at me, but I've never had one strike out at me. These cats are just trying to get away from us, and it's not that they don't have the ability. I mean, a 100-pound female can take down a 400-pound elk, so they certainly have the ability if they wanted to, but by nature they're fairly timid animals. She's notorious for climbing really tall trees that are very difficult to work. She's very good at looping around and crossing the trail that the dogs had already run to try and screw the dogs up. If she's got any kittens, she'll throw them up a tree right there so the hounds hang up at the trees with the kittens, and she takes off and runs so we can't catch her. She's got a lot of tricks, and she's very good at, evading us. 140 pounds, 150 pounds. His name was Val, 31 degrees and raining outside. And I went down to the tree, and by the time I got down to the tree and I had my spurs on, I looked up, I realized the cat was about 30 feet up rather than 15 feet up. And so I started climbing up the tree. I got up into the tree and I was about 5 feet from the cat, and the cat started to growl at me. Yes, the first time in the tree, I was shaking beyond belief. Up in that tree, and it's a whole thing to be watching somebody do that, but when it's you up in the tree and you're 5 feet from a cat, feeling its breath as it growls on you, at you, or hisses, and I didn't feel like it was quite under enough drug for me to do anything to get a rope on its foot, so I tried to get a syringe out, but I didn't have a harness on to tie into the tree, so I was just holding on to the branches, trying to get this maneuvered around to get a syringe out and give the cat an injection, and that wasn't going very well, so I put that back and I got the rope out and I took it off over my shoulder, and I went to grab his foot, and when I touched his foot, the cat stood up. He kind of snarled at me a little bit, and when he started to crawl down the tree, and it was about a 12-inch diameter tree, and the cat crawled around me in the tree, right down the backside of the tree, and as I'd move one hand, the cat would move his paw, and we kind of switched places in the tree, and when he crawled underneath me in the tree and he backed himself all the way out of the tree, jumped down and ran off. That was my first experience ever trying to get a rope around a cougar. I think with my work, I do research on these species, but I think my biggest hope is that, you increase humanity's tolerance for these species on the landscape, because ultimately that's what it comes down to, is whether people allow them to be here. If these animals are going to be here, there's got to be some tolerance from people. It depends on the time of year. The winter time, you know, we've got 10 days slated this coming winter to go do helicopter work. Flying a helicopter is incredibly expensive, probably about $1,600 an hour. That includes the pilot.
And fuel.
And fuel. So we do that. I'll spend a few days in a fixed wing doing surveys in the wintertime. Step in a helicopter, fly around with the doors off in the wintertime at 120 miles an hour on a 5 below day, and you feel alive. If you, you know, pull out a rivet, that plane's probably still going to fly. But you pull out a couple rivets and pieces start falling off. You never know quite how airworthy it is. And eventually, when you start losing too many of those components, that plane isn't going to fly any longer. I feel like I've been able to experience and do some really fun things, and I just try and gravitate to what keeps it fun and keeps life exciting and happy, and it reflects in my demeanor. I savor the good days. I savor the times where I'm flying around in a helicopter and get to see some amazing stuff and work in some of the coolest, most remote country in Washington. Yeah, I think surround yourself with good people and walk through life with good morals, and just be nice to people and recognize the beauty of the world around you. And I think it can keep a smile on your face. I definitely have plenty of things that could get me down, and you just kind of, for those days I need to go out for a hike and grind 3,000 feet up a hill and burn off some of that steam, and I'm usually much happier at the end of the day when I get back down and can relax and have a bite to eat.